So the Nazi march last night got a lot of media attention. Surprise, surprise. This time it's not Sky News though.
Good evening. 100 neo-Nazis hiding behind black masks have marched through the Burke Street Mall, spouting hate and threatening violence. Powerless
Hate march. There we go. It's a hate march. Why aren't these guys marching as Ned Kellys or Neo Anzacs? Or can't they come up with just Australian nationalists? Part of the reason is they're part of a global movement. They're not actually nationalists, they're globalists because they're part of a global network. So how can they even be nationalists? It's just a contradiction in and of itself.
police could do little but follow the white supremacists who've declared Melbourne is becoming the Nazi capital of Australia. Crime reporter Gillian Lantouris.
Melbourne CBD at midnight, mirroring a bygone era.
What a coincidence, you know, these guys go and do a march and out of nowhere the police just happen to know they're there and the police are there to watch them and run their sirens. On top of that, what a coincidence, the media just happens to know they're there as well, as if the police and the media are in on this and they're all actively out to create a narrative that all white men in Australia are Nazis and that we all deserve to be killed. That's my take on what's happening here. And they're not a nationalist movement at all because they're connected with the American movement. I think there's a Canadian movement. There's multiple other movements around the world. They're not Australian nationalists. They're just not. And you can't be an Australian nationalist if you're adopting a German ideology. On top of that, when you think about the globe, which countries are left that are white? Well, Russia is white. Russia is one of the only countries in the world, and this is why a lot of people support Russia in the West, because it's one of the only countries that is predominantly white. This is why Poland at the moment has a good reputation. They've been racist forever and they've kept all the immigrants out. Everyone loves Poland right now. Everyone loves Poland. People are brown-nosing up to Hungary because they kept all of the immigrants out as well. These are the only countries left that are white. So for these guys to adopt an ideology of Nazism after the Russians invaded Ukraine and all of the men in Ukraine are now labeled. In the history books, Ukrainian men are going to be labeled as Nazis. Let's be realistic. And we're going to associate that with Germany. And that's what the Russians see the Ukrainians as. Whoever runs Ukraine, they see them as Nazis. So what is happening in Ukraine? White men are getting murdered by globalists. Let's be realistic, and bankers. So if we are all labelled as Nazis because there's a few Nazis in Australia, what are they going to do? They're going to bring in these anti-Semitism laws. They're going to use this as an excuse. And on top of that, if anything happens to a white man in Australia in the future, we're just going to be labelled, oh, well, they're all Nazis. Come on, guys. Like, it's okay to have a genocide against white Australian men. Didn't you know that white men in Australia have been marching as Nazis for years now? It's okay to slaughter all of them.
White supremacists take over the Burke Street Mall, in their own words.
People say that Melbourne is the left-wing capital.
On top of that, what a coincidence that in their Telegram group, they just happen to give out all of this perfect messaging so that the media has something to use and put in print and put on the news. What a coincidence that the media happens to know that they're out marching at that specific time. The police happen to be there to capture it. They've got all this footage of it. And on top of that, the mainstream media happens to get into their Telegram group and they just happen to set up the perfect messaging here. That's what this is here. This video was put in their Telegram group specifically so that the media can use it. Now, if this is it's just too many coincidences, and And on top of that, if these guys just called themselves white nationalists, 100%, white Australian nationalists, something Australian like Ned Kelly's, I don't know, the kangaroos, the white boxing kangaroos. Just let's get creative and have like a real Australian name, but they don't. They decide to use Nazis. And that gives the whole game away.
Capital of Australia, it's becoming the Nazi capital of Australia.
Sadly, Victoria has become the hate state.
One man enjoying a night out had his phone smashed out of his hands.
So Melbourne is the hate state? What, because a couple hundred guys like are in a little group? You see how all white men in Melbourne are now labelled Nazis? And you do realise that it's totally okay to torture, kill, murder Nazis. It's okay to have a genocide against you're aware of that, right? You're aware that more Germans died after the war due to torture and murder by the Zionists in Germany after World War II than during the entire war? Think about that in the context of what they're building up here. They want to kill white men in Australia, and this is a coordinated effort to do so.
It's not a peaceful protest at all.
While a 26-year-old was taken to the Royal Melbourne Hospital after spitting at the masked men before he was bashed.
I had an English backpacker, he came up to me, he's like,
Okay, yeah, so the video's in the Telegram group. So some guy just comes up and spits in the face of one of the guys, and he defends himself and punches the guy out. Yeah, they're protesting. Protest is legal. I know, because we're run by Zionists, you're not allowed to protest in Australia anymore. We weren't allowed to protest during the lockdowns, even at the Anzac Memorial, which is evidence that the Zionists don't give a shit about the Anzacs. And that's what we should be defending, not Nazism. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's my first night out here. Is it normal for there to be Nazis walking around?
Police
Oh, so some immigrant had an opinion. Tell them to fuck off back to their own country. That's the whole problem. Most Australians like myself are sick of immigrants. It's time to bring in a dictator king that is a white Australian man with a Ned Kelly cap, Ned Kelly steel helmet, and he wants to just send all of these pieces of shit home, including the Nazis. Come on. What is this about? Zionists, Nazis, they're our enemy. The real Australians are going to suffer while the Zionists and the Nazis play these political games. While you guys are on the tools tomorrow, while you guys are keeping the lights on, while you guys are keeping the transport running, driving the trucks, while you guys are building the buildings, you guys are keeping the plumbing moving, you're keeping the energy and the lights on, and you're keeping the farms moving, these pieces of shit, both sides, are playing politics with your future and your children's future. If you have children, if you can even afford to have white children, that is.
powerless, following the crowd through the heart of the city. The far-right group posting this video shortly after.
The police just had to accept our presence. They just simply have to accept the fact that we want to march and that we will.
And if you have a close look at this guy's face, he looks exactly like Rabbi Shmuley in the United States. You put their faces next to each other, they might as well be brothers. And they might be cousins or something. Because, in my opinion, they're working together. That's what I think. That's honestly what I think is going on here.
To see last night, police pretty much having to chaperone the protesters because they can't arrest them. What's that?
Don't give them any attention. What a joke. You retard, you retard with a lisp. Fuck off.
About?
The group is spearheaded by neo-Nazi Thomas Sewell. They spent the night at the Phoenix Caravan Park in Milan. A journalist and a photographer were allegedly attacked before the group picked up other members in Bacchus Marsh ahead of their national conference, where they were greeted with fierce opposition.
They're not nice people. We let them know that we know that.
The Premier
They're not nice people? Is this reporting? Is this real news? I feel like you guys watching me reporting on the reporting is far more educational than 9 News. The mainstream media is such a joke. And the boomers just eat it up because they're drunk on a 6-pack of what is left of Australian VB or Tui's that isn't even made in Australia anymore, getting drunk every night, having a few fags, having a few cigarettes, not real fags, and watching the nightly news, try and get up to date with what the Zionists want them to think.
Condemning the group. Nazis don't belong in this country and they know it. That's why they hide behind masks in the dark.
No, Ned Kelly wore a mask. Excuse me, Jacinta scumbag. Women shouldn't be in politics. Hate to be sexist with this. I'm 100% on, the Nick Fuentes camp. Women shouldn't have anything to do with politics because when a country collapses, women don't die. They just go and find another man in another country and go stay with him. That's what women do. What happens is when a country collapses under immigration and we just get drowned and becomes claustrophobic and we lose everything, we die like the Ukrainian men are dying right now. We get swept up off the street. And so in times like this, women should be as far away from politics and the military and the federal police as possible.
We're not afraid of these goons, but we will not tolerate them either.
We don't need to wait for another Christchurch to happen in our city to take this growing threat seriously.
While not
Christchurch. Okay, so Christchurch was the Zionists telling weak-minded Australians that Muslims were the enemy for 30 years, and then one nut job grabs a machine gun and goes and shoots up people in New Zealand because he was watching too much mainstream media that was telling them every single night, the Muslims are coming after you. The Muslims, the Lint Cafe. And every day it was Muslim this, Muslim that. And so the issue that we got here is that they're using Zionist propaganda to now flip the switch. And it's funny how they're using that, actually. It's funny how they're using that as if they know that these guys are the same as the people that are hating on the Muslims.
arrests were made last night, Victoria Police says it respects the right to protest. However, racist, anti-Semitic or hate-based behaviour is not tolerated.
But it's perfectly okay in every other country that has a dominant demographic within it, like every country in Asia. Indonesia is for Indonesians, and they know that that is race-based. But we, Indonesia, China, go through all of the countries. The Cambodian scumbags, the most racist pieces of shit in Asia, Cambodians, pieces of shit. The Thais aren't much better. They know that their country, Thailand, is for Thais, and Thais look and have a specific race. But only in Australia we have to tolerate all of this multiculturalism. Why? Because of the Zionists, because of the Israelis. Because the Israelis are globalists the same way these Nazis are globalists. And literally, I'm one of the few real Australians left that just want all of these people to fuck off.
For people to target individuals because of their background, and that should be illegal.
Gillian Lantouris is at State Parliament. Jill, the Premier says anti-vilification laws...
There we go. There we go, guys. So you pay a bunch of kids that are actually feds. You brainwash a bunch of them. You get them out there marching. You set up the cameras. You set up the media. You set up the police. And then you've got the perfect psyop. Oh, we need to bring in anti-vilification laws. Oh, what a coincidence. So none of these Nazis are actually doing any protests. I've tried to reach out to them to have decent conversations, but there's no decent conversations. They're not willing to discuss it with anybody. They're not willing to get out there and have proper conversations with anybody. And if I was to speak to them, one of the questions would be, what is your political ends here? To kill white men? To set us up? Because this whole Nazi ideology is never ever going to gain, it's never ever going to be popular enough that you can have a political ends to this. As in, you're going to have a Nazi president or prime minister or dictator in Australia? Is that the dream that these guys have? It's never going to happen. It's actually impossible to do that because no one's going to be for it. No one. And the Israelis are flooding us, who control the political system, are just flooding us with as many Africans and as many scumbags as they can to make that even more difficult. So what is the political means here? What are they trying to achieve? If you're a Nazi, you don't have any friends in America. You don't have any Canadian friends. You don't have any English friends. Who are you friends with if you're a Nazi? What is the political means? There's no political means. We cannot have... If Australia becomes run by Nazis, let's just say these guys' biggest wet dream, because they have an IQ of 60, they say that Africans aren't smart, but this is the most retarded shit I've ever seen. What is your political end here? What is the end goal of doing all this? What can you achieve? Okay, so you put a Nazi king in Australia, what happens? A national socialist, this dream? Who's going to be friends with you? Well, immediately, New Zealand's not going to be our friends. Indonesia's not going to be friends. Why would China want to even trade with us? We instantly isolate the entire country. And then how are you going to kick people out? You're going to commit a genocide to kick people out? Like, just, you have to have these guys are often quite well spoken, and they seem like they're articulate and smart enough to understand all of this, which makes me almost certain that these guys are feds, because the only political end to all of this is stronger laws targeting white men within our own country, long term, getting all of the demographics, the immigrants within this country to gang up against white men, which they're already doing, but to make it even more vicious, we lose more rights, and maybe even they commit a genocide against us. Anyway.